revoked for convicted killer Brayden Bushby. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Thunder Bay convict is back behind bars 24/7. Bushby is no longer eligible for daily releases from prison after violating his conditions.
The 26-year-old is currently serving an 8-year sentence after being convicted of manslaughter in the trailer hitch death of 33-year-old Barbara Kentner in 2017. Bushby was found guilty in December of 2020 and was handed his sentence in June of 2021. Just 2 years later, the parole board granted Bushby day parole in the community. That privilege was then extended for an additional 6 months in February. But now that day parole has been revoked. A hearing was held last week. According to the parole board, Bushby had consumed alcohol, was involved in a car accident, failed a breathalyzer test, and was in the company of a woman he wasn't supposed to have contact with. He also got a tattoo of a Confederate flag on his chest. The parole board says Bushby's risk to the community has become unmanageable. The full details can be found on tbnewswatch.com.
For the second time in 4 months, a drag Storytime event at a local library received a threat.
It happened over the weekend. Local Pride officials call it another disheartening attack against the community. Vasilios Bellows joins us live. Vasilios, I understand the Storytime event still went ahead.
Yeah, Ryan, Saturday's event went on as planned after police searched the library and deemed it safe. Organizers continue to stress that these events are kid-friendly and will continue to take place. A strong message from the local Pride community after another threat was made against one of its events.
Don't waste your time because it's not going to stop people. It's our choices that we're making as a community. If you don't want to be involved in different community things, if you don't have kids, it's not your business.
For the second time since March, a drag Storytime event at the Mary J. L. Black Library received an anonymous threat. The most recent one was sent directly to Thunder Bay Police, who then alerted the event organizers. Officers responded and searched the area, but found nothing. That allowed the Storytime and kids crafting session to still go ahead. However, the event was moved outdoors as a precaution. The investigation remains ongoing, and police were not available for comment. Thunder Pride Chair Scotia Copey says the events are kid-friendly, often aimed at teaching children valuable life lessons.
Accepting someone who likes robots instead of dinosaurs was a Christmas story they read once. This weekend, it was about blueberry picking. Like, totally innocuous, nothing that's grooming anybody or anything like that. It's just simple things and then doing crafts with kids.
Many in the community say these threats are far more than just a nuisance when trying to put on an event.
This is safety and well-being in your own community, and that's shattered.
That includes Rainbow Collective President Jason Veltri, who says the fact this has happened twice now has led to mental health struggles for many in the community. Veltri says it's important for the city as a whole to come together.
Say that this isn't in our backyard, that not here, nor are we going back into the closet, but we are a community that is safe, that is welcoming of individuals that have differences than ours, and that we're Thunder Bay. We have a giant heart, and we can't allow this to permeate our society.
The Pride officials went on to welcome anyone who may be concerned with the drag Storytime events to reach out to them for education or to attend one in person. Back to you in the studio, Ryan and Riley.
Okay, thank you very much, Vasilios. Thunder Bay Police are investigating a scary incident this past weekend in which a South Side home was riddled with bullet holes. Police responded to the 400 block of Wiley Street just after 5:30 Sunday morning after getting reports of multiple gunshots. Officers arrived to find around 20 bullet holes in and around the front window of this home. No injuries were reported to police and no arrests have been made. Police weren't available for an interview on the incident, but they're asking anyone with information to reach out to them.
As temperatures continue to reach the high 20s and humidex levels push into the 30s, a local organization is helping vulnerable people escape the heat.
Officials with PACE say more than 100 people have stopped by their cooling center in recent days, and they're expecting many more as the heat wave continues. Jessica Clement has the details.
The almost 30 degrees weather this past weekend brought a steady stream of people through Pace's doors to find relief from the heat. The organization's cooling center offers the city's vulnerable population an air-conditioned place to cool down, and employees had water, juice, and popsicles on hand to help keep the clients hydrated. Executive Director Georgina McKinnon says they found themselves really busy over the humid weekend.
We had 130 to 180 people each day coming in for over 200 visits a day. We have a capacity of 30 people, so once we hit that capacity, we start rotating them out. So bring them in for a half hour, 40 minutes. As long as there's people waiting outside, we give them a half hour, 40 minutes to come in and cool down and then rotate them out.
Many clients said they were grateful for the comfort and amenities the cooling center offers.
It's good for everyone to be here to have that resource. Without it, there could be people over getting dehydrated and passing out outside.
I love everything that you provide, the shade, the coffee, the food, and the people that's here.
And with the temperature staying in the high 20s the rest of this week, McKinnon is expecting to see hundreds of more people using their facilities.
The numbers we're expecting are going to be pretty equal to what we saw this weekend. We're expecting to have over 200 visits a day by up to 150 people. Our hours are going to be from Monday to Friday, 8 in the morning till 8 at night, and 11 till 8 on the weekends.
The organization goes through water and juice rapidly and are asking for donations of those, along with summer clothing and footwear.
We accept gently used clothing. We're looking for shorts, tank tops for both men and women, as well as cold drinks, popsicles, freezies, anything to try to help the clients, stay cool.
Hot weather injuries happen really easy without you even noticing that it's happening to you. So we're going through water and juice like crazy.
Donations can be dropped off at Pace's headquarters on Victoria Avenue East. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
The lack of forest fires in northern Ontario is allowing the MNR to provide a lot of help out west, where huge forest fires continue to rage. Right now, Ontario has 276 personnel deployed in the western provinces. Many of those staffers are from here in the Northwest region. The latest group flew out this past weekend.
At this time, Ontario Fire Rangers are working in Manitoba, Alberta, and British Columbia, and we have additional personnel and resources deployed to Saskatchewan and the Northwest Territories.
A massive wildfire that swept through Jasper National Park in Alberta has consumed about a third of the small town. The MNR teams consist of fire ranger crews, incident management members, and air attack officers. They've all been deployed to help those western areas at risk. Fire Information Officer Alison Bazubiak speaks more about Ontario's mutual aid sharing agreement.
All requests for resources and assistance are carefully assessed while balancing the needs here in Ontario to ensure that we remain prepared for wildfire demands here at home. So over the course of the 2024 season, Ontario has seen consistent and widespread rainfall that has kept the fire load lower than average. So because of this relatively slow fire season that we've had so far, we have been able to provide support to our partner agencies when it's been requested.
A lifelong advocate for survivors of Indian residential schools has passed away.
Garnet Ankb received the Order of Canada for volunteer service to the cause and his efforts toward reconciliation. Former TBT reporter Jordan Mullaney interviewed Ankb in Sioux Lookout back in 2013 when that prestigious honor was first announced. Here's a look back at that story.
He now calls the town of Sioux Lookout home and has spent a number of years doing his part to make the community a better place. Garnet Ankb was forced from his home in Lac Seul when he was just 7 years old to attend Pelican Lake Indian Residential School, where he spent the next 6 years. He says during his stay there, he, along with many others, were abused physically, emotionally, sexually, and spiritually. Since beginning his healing journey in 1990, he has concentrated on improving the relations between Aboriginals and non-Aboriginals. He says being honored with the Order of Canada wouldn't be possible without the help of a whole community.
It certainly took me off guard, it completely surprised, and really honored, deeply honored by the recognition of some of the work that I, along with many others, have done.
While he believes the history of residential schools should be put in the past, he says it should also be acknowledged and discussed to create awareness. Ankb led the charge to have the federal government acknowledge and apologize to the country's residential school survivors. He's also spent the last 20 years addressing the effects and healing for those survivors, and says the only way to move forward is to create a new Canada through reconciliation.
In a sense that you always want to promote understanding, good dialogue, those kinds of good things, so that we shape the future that we want for our children and our grandchildren, so that they live in a good world.
His work in Sioux Lookout includes being elected to municipal council in 1985 and spearheading the Sioux Lookout Anti-Racism Committee, which he says has done a lot of good for the community. He views Sioux Lookout as a great example of a municipality working well with neighboring First Nation communities, and most enjoys giving his people renewed hope for the future.
It's gratifying to see people smile one more time, because we are in many ways resilient, and to know that we can heal and we can reconcile and come back and be good people again, the proud people that we were before we left our communities and our families.
And again, that was a story that we first ran back in 2013. Ankb received his Order of Canada insignia in 2015 from then Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell. He passed away on July 25th in his hometown of Sioux Lookout. Garnet Ankb was 68 years old.
A Thunder Bay driver found herself upside down in her vehicle yesterday morning after a collision at a Southside intersection. Carrie Barbini says luckily she walked away safely thanks to her seatbelt.
It's extremely important. I mean, I'm pretty sure that my seatbelt saved my life yesterday.
Barbini was traveling on East Isabella Street when another driver failed to stop at the stop sign on Leland Street. The resulting collision caused Barbini's car to flip over, and she was stuck upside down until first responders were able to rescue her about 15 minutes later. Fortunately, she only suffered a few bruises, but she knows it could have been much worse.
People have been in accidents there. People blow the stop signs all the time, and I would like somebody to look at it and maybe put a four-way stop or flashing lights. I mean, somebody's going to get killed at that intersection, and I think it's important that they take a hard look at it.
The other driver has been charged with failing to stop at a stop sign. Barbini's vehicle is a write-off.
Yeah, when you do see that picture, you realize just how lucky she was.
Absolutely.
All right, let's turn our attention to the weather now. And Haley, we mentioned the cooling centers very busy this week, and that should continue over the next few days because that hot weather continues.
Yeah, absolutely. We were even a degree hotter than we thought we would be. And although we were under mostly cloudy conditions, the effects of the sun have still been very much felt. I refer to it almost like a veil over a beautiful bride. The clouds may be there, but the radiance and the warmth is still felt and seen. So my goodness, it was a hot one today. 29 was our high that we hit at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've been hovering around 28 for the rest of this afternoon leading into this evening. Our hottest humidex was making it feel like 34, and our low was 17, which was at 7 in the morning. So 17, still very warm for overnight and early morning hours, and we've only gotten hotter from there. Winds very fluctuating throughout the day as far as direction goes, but as far as speed, nothing very alarming, very light and breezy. For the rest of the region, most of our region are in a heat warning right now, as humidex is really the factor. It's as if a hot humidex pocket of air pressure is pushing through from the west and across the region. Right now, Red Lake's at 30, and they've seen humidexes making it mid-30s for most of the day, making it feel like 35. Similar situation where mostly cloudy conditions, but that heat is still pushing through those clouds. Pickle Lake is an interesting situation because they actually had a pop-up thunderstorm 2 hours ago, and so that cooled them just to 21 degrees. But for most of the day, they've been seeing very similar conditions, sunny for the most part, and now they're up to 24 again. Elsewhere in the region, still very sunny and hot. 29 in Fort Frances, Dryden, and Kenora. They saw sun for most of the day, and very similar. Humidex making it feel like the mid-30s. As we go over, we can see that humidex affects a lot of areas. 27 in Uppsala and Atikokan, but still feeling like 33, 34 for most of the day. Greenstone is one of the few areas that is not under a heat warning, as they're currently at 26 under a mainly clear sky. But that humidex has only been making it feel like 30, 31. And then what's interesting is areas like Marathon and Wawa, they're actually under fog advisories, because lots of times with that hot humidity, instead of manifesting as a thunderstorm, it can be mist or fog. And so that's what they're seeing there. And it's keeping them a little cooler as well. So Marathon 17, Wawa 20 right now. Sault Ste. Marie, though, not affected by that fog. They're at 25 under mostly cloudy conditions. Similar humidex around the mid-30s for most of the day. Now for Thunder Bay, we've been seeing a lot of risks of thunderstorms, but that's not the case tonight. Tonight we're looking at a clear evening with a low of 16, but the pop-up of a thunderstorm is very likely at this time of year with this kind of humidity, so that may be coming back soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Haley. Well, we mentioned the wildfires out west a little earlier. A lot of personnel from here in northwestern Ontario going to help out with those. We'll provide an update on those wildfires that continue to rage in the western part of the country right after this break.
Parks Canada and our partners have done everything we reasonably could have done to reduce fire risk over many years